Hi, I'm Rachel Bulman.
And I'm Jason Bulman.
And we're the Bulmans. Thanks so much for coming back to our house again this week. We hope that you enjoyed getting to know a little bit about our family last week and continuing on this journey with us as we wait to meet Josephine and Benedict.
Seems like everybody is excited everywhere we go. We're like, oh my gosh, when are you due? You know, no hiding this anymore.
Like, are you due any day now? Nope, we still have a little bit. But with twins, it's a little bit more obvious that there's something going on here. Yeah. But it's really exciting. And today was a soccer day. So the boys won, I think it was 9-3.
Yeah, so proud of my boys. Both of them scored today. So Gabriel's our oldest, and he's been our offender. And he usually gets a goal or two. And then Jeremiah has been the defender, which is great to have, one of them
on each side of the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And working together. Today, Jeremiah got a goal, so that was a big deal.
When he scored the goal today, I yelled, Jeremiah Bulman, great goal. And he turned and looked at me and he's like, He wasn't embarrassed. He was just very dignified that, yes, I got a goal, and he was unimpressed by himself.
That's true.
But this week for us has really been about the discernment of spirits.
Yeah, so we may have mentioned last time that I'm in formation to become a deacon in the Catholic Church. So we have been discerning that path for about 5 or 6 years now. Everyone knows when you're trying to make a big decision like this, especially as you get, closer to the end, there's all this challenge that comes about in your heart. Something that was given to the church by a great saint, St. Ignatius of Loyola. It's called the Discernment of Spirits. Really, this is a list of very key insights or rules into how to discern the different movements in your heart. Because as we know, life has all these ebbs and flows, and we know when we're fully alive, if you will. We know when we're our best self, when we're happy. It seems like we're in the right place and, in the right circumstances, good friends, all those things are in alignment, and we're able to be free and fully ourselves. And then there are times when, these little anxieties creep in, these little doubts about ourselves, about life, about our decisions, we fall into despair, all these kind of things. And so you have this great analogy.
Yeah, because when you hear discernment, you always think choice, like I'm trying to discern, I'm trying to make a choice. But when you're talking about the discernment of spirits, it's not necessarily about trying to make a choice as much as it's just being aware of the movements of your heart.
Yeah.
And so I use the analogy of having like the space in your house that you're really familiar with, that maybe it's like your desk in your office or like your bedside table or, your favorite spot in your house, where everything goes and it has a place and it has a home. And so the goal of discernment of spirits is for you to have your heart be that place, that it so well that when something feels out of place, that something's going on, I need to pay attention. I need to be aware of the movements here and know, is this leading me towards the good or is it leading me away from the good? And then be able to take action. It was probably one of the best tools that I've ever used in my entire life, learning about the discernment of spirits. I think it helped us not only as individuals, but it helped us within our marriage. When's the first time that you ever heard about the discernment of spirits?
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Because it's been so profound in helping us in our own lives as individuals, in our marriage, and as parents and stuff. I really didn't hear about it until I was a young adult, till after college. So let me back up. My parents are incredible. I have loving parents. I always knew that I was loved for who I was, irrespective of anything. My parents had my back. I was well loved. But even in the best circumstances, I think there's always that contrary voice out there that makes you doubt yourself, makes you doubt who you are, makes you doubt your belovedness, really. I chose to believe the contrary voices to my own goodness, to my own, belovedness. whenever you make that decision, like, I'm really not good enough, what you try to do is end up trying to reinvent who you are. And so I made the decision that I wanted to leave where I grew up and go to college somewhere far away where I knew nobody. So I go with all these, I think, subconscious ideas of how to reinvent myself and what I thought I should be, which is often influenced, I think, on what we see in the media. And then what ends up happening is you'll eventually find somebody who affirms you in this false identity that you've tried to create for yourself, and that only affirms you in your own,
Right. Oh,
self-deprecation.
I really wasn't good enough before.
Yeah.
Finally, someone sees me.
Yeah.
But really, what they see is not really who you are.
It's true. So what I've found is, people who affirm you in these made-up versions of yourself are usually trying to do the same as you, or they're trying to use you.
Right.
And so I rode that train, unfortunately, for about 5 years of my life, in a very dysfunctional relationship with a girl. And what ended up happening, ironically, is she finally said to me, thanks be to God, she said, I just can't do this to you anymore, because I've always known that you were meant for so much more than this, and I just can't do this. And she left me, and it was devastating for me.
Because the stories that you had told me were that you had kind of abandoned your family during this time. You were kind of abandoned everything about your old life. You really weren't talking to your parents a lot.
Yeah.
And
my mom prayed to St. Monica every day.
Right.
For me.
And the Lord kind of tried to remind you to come back even a couple times. Jason had a really horrific car accident at one point.
That's true. And that happened shortly after I got up to college too. So here I am, on this mission to reinvent myself. And I don't even think it was a semester or two into college, and I got in this really bad accident. My face went through the front windshield of the car and got really mangled. I had to have surgeries for it and all that. And
how long before you went and saw your parents after the accident? Was it like 2 weeks?
Yeah, so I called my parents.
Oh my gosh. Sorry. Every time he tells this story, I'm like, what is happening?
My
Go ahead.
So yeah, I called my parents, and I was in denial, clearly. And I told them, yeah, I got kind of a bad scrape on my face, I just got kind of a bad one,
Oh my gosh, sorry.
So I don't think I went and saw my parents.
You didn't even tell them that you went through a windshield, right? You were just like, kind of got a little fender bender.
Yeah, they had no idea. But I didn't go see them for probably, I don't even know, 3 weeks, 4 weeks or something like that. So yeah, the story goes, I walked in, I knocked on the door, my parents opened the door, and my mom immediately, this is not really funny, actually. I mean,
it's pretty sad.
My mom immediately, covered her mouth and then ran to the bathroom, and I think she was in there for an hour or so before she would come out.
Because he still had glass in his face.
Yeah.
And then come to find out that he hadn't gone to class during that time.
Yeah.
So all of the denial of who he was and who he was called to be kind of culminated in this.
Yeah.
And you would have thought it would have been like your call to home, but you still went down that same road for a little while after that.
100%. I mean, I think that certainly, then you get into like body image issues there too. So there's all these negative voices, surrounding me at that point, and me trying to hide from who I am, and, I tried to act tough. You act on the surface like it doesn't bother you, but reflecting on it now, it was a huge identity crisis. Is what it was.
I really like this space too. So the other thing that you said to me was that when she left you kind of hit rock bottom.
Yeah, I can't capture into words how incredibly powerful those times were. I mean, I've heard Bishop Barron talk about his sort of like the times when the Lord really consoled him, and how he could even remember certain music at that time, certain things, and it really began that period of my life. I felt so consoled and so close to the Lord that it was the first time in my life that I felt free to just be me.
And where did you go when you felt free?
Thank God my parents raised me in the Catholic Church, because honestly, I somehow knew that I was loved for just who I was. And so I immediately started praying, which I hadn't done in probably
ever?
Yeah, maybe not
ever.
Maybe not ever. Yeah. And started going to daily mass, and I wasn't receiving communion because I at least knew enough that I shouldn't be doing that. And I felt convicted to...
Until you had gone to confession,
yes,
right?
I felt convicted to write out like all this disorder that had been in my life for years. And I wrote out like two full pages of not just sins, but, like all the things that needed healing. And, it's an incredible story. I got the priest after Mass to come, and he like took me into like the little gift shop in the narthex, and he's like, okay, I'll hear your confession. And I was thinking, you have no idea what you're about to... And I got on my knees. I remember I got on my knees, and he sat there, and like I pulled this folded up 2 pieces of paper out of my pocket, and he was so patient with me and let me hear all this. And at the end of it, he was just like, he was floored, and he said, what made you do this, And I was like, Father, honestly, I started praying the rosary because that's all I knew what to do, because I just felt so consoled by God. And having gone to Catholic school, I just started praying the rosary, and he's like, the Blessed Mother saved your life. And I was like, amen.
I was just sitting here thinking about, I cry a lot, so I'm going to try not to cry, but it's thinking about you said irony earlier about what happened with your heartbreak and everything, but the irony of you being in a gift shop, to receive one of the greatest gifts that we have, which is the sacrament of confession, and how much of a gift you were to that priest probably, and how much the priest was a gift to you during that moment. Like that's pretty, that's one of the most beautiful ironies of the world, is the grace of God.
There's nothing that can separate us from God's love. I swear, whenever you're upset, it's because you've forgotten that, because really, like, hey, in the end, God's got this, He loves me, and I'm going to be with Him forever in eternity, and He's won, everything's going to be okay. But Fulton Sheen, I think he said so many things that were so great. But one of the things that we love so much is, you look at the world and you see war, right? You see warring on all the way from world wars to just spats between people that love each other.
Right.
And all that war out there, it always comes down to division within individual persons.
Yeah, he called it like the civil war that happens inside of our hearts. Yeah. That you have all of these things that are at war with the war within who you are called to be, who you are as a child of God, and the war between the person that you think that you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And he would always draw these really dynamic... I laugh because it was called like 2-star Hennessy that he would draw on the board, and he was like, his eyes are furrowed because he's mad, because he's at war within himself about who he could be and who he's meant to be. And he says that the civil wars pour out into the world and cause world wars. If you want peace in the world, you have to begin with yourself, right?
Yeah.
And achieve peace here, and then you're able to make decisions better. I mean, if there's any truth to anything that you watch today or that you spend your time doing, we hope that you'll spend some time thinking about the fact that you're loved. You might not feel it, and you might not have someone that's running and banging down your door, but there's a God of the universe that is like, hey, you're loved.
Once you're in that place of feeling loved, then you can really discern.
So thanks for coming back to us.
Yes.
And we hope that even though now you've heard about all the bad decisions that Jason made in his life, that you'll come back and join us again next week as we continue waiting for Josephine and Benedict to arrive, and to also continue telling you about this wonderful life that we get to live in the Bulman family, and sharing some glimpses of this joy. Thanks so much for joining us, for coming into our home, and we hope that you'll come back every week, because we can't wait for you to meet these twins and journey with us as we grow our family and expand them even more.
It really is a pleasure. Please pray for us, and we'll pray for you.
God bless.